Indeed, good afternoon. Welcome. This is Farm Kenya. My name is Peter Wakaba, and you're just in time for 1 hour of news, views, and interesting insights into agriculture. As ever, here on Farm Kenya, we bring you the news that you can use to make informed decisions about your agriculture and your investments in this sector. Well, today here on Farm Kenya, we dive into a crucial conversation that is agroecology. What exactly is it? And how can it transform food security in Eastern Africa? What can it do about finding, your niche in the agriculture space and putting some money in your pocket? Well, we're just fresh from the second Eastern Africa Agroecology Conference, and we will unpack key takeaways and discuss the path forward from that. And joining us here in studio to do just that, two guests, Dr. David Amundavi. He is the Executive Director of BioVision Africa and a true champion for sustainable agriculture. And of course, Phyllis Nduva, who is a dedicated agroecological farmer from Makueni County, who will bring us real-life experiences from the farm. Well, we want to just sort of get a bit of insight from these two and just what sort of roles they've been playing. We'll start off with Dr. Mudavi, and essentially, as an expert in this space, what do you and your organization do in a very short space, essentially in this agroecology space? What is it, and why should it be something that we care about?
Thank you very much, Mr. Peter Wakaba, for inviting me to this station to talk about the work that BioVision Africa Trust does in this country, and also in the rest of East Africa and the whole continent as a whole. BioVision Africa Trust is involved in working with farmers, working with policymakers, researchers, extension people, to see how best we can address issues of food security and nutrition, as well as incomes for farm families, while considering three important things. One, the people have to be fed, and therefore we have to look at what are the most sustainable technologies and practices that the farmers can be introduced to practice in order to ensure that there is enhanced food security. And two, we are very much concerned about the environment. The environment is an important support mechanism for all of us. You destroy the environment, you destroy your agriculture and food systems. You also destroy your economy. So we are very conscious about those practices that are very friendly to the environment. So environment is very, very key here. And finally, economy. We can't have an agriculture system that cannot support a prosperous economy. And for Kenya and most African countries, economies are dependent on agriculture. So when we look at the issues of people in terms of society, the environment, and the economy, those three things together, they call upon us to look at then what kind of agricultural systems and practices, and by extension also technologies and innovations, should we have so that we are able to have increased and sustainable food security, incomes generation, and also ensuring that our environments are safe and still productive enough. And also to ensure that what we produce can enable farm families and even consumers be able to face most difficult times. And that is what we call resilience. So for sustainable agriculture to be resilient, it means that you ought to look at the environmental surroundings in which you practice your agriculture. And that is the whole purpose of agroecology. It's from agriculture and ecology, which is about the environment.
So I want to cut you short there for just a minute so we can bring in Phyllis. And essentially, Phyllis, the doctor here talks about sustainability in environment, food security, and of course the financial aspects. As a farmer, have you been able to bring these things into play to actually make a living, to actually turn a profit? And is agroecology working for you, and how?
Yes, thank you very much, Peter. My name is Phyllis Nduva. I'm a farmer and from Makueni County. Most of the time I farm fruits. That is mangoes and the citrus and all other fruits which can be grown in Makueni. If we go to agroecology, I'm very committed to do agroecology because if you look at when you are producing, you need quality and the quantity. So quantity might not be very visible first because people want to use the fertilizers and also the synthetic products. But when you do that, you get, through agroecology, you get food secure, you get food, you eat healthy.
Yes.
So, and you also take care of your soil. So that's why I'm very much committed to do that. And also health, we are looking at health. Health issues are very crucial. Because now if you look at the diseases we are getting even for young people like diabetic and all that, most of them are caused by eating food which is not secure. Yeah.
Well, Dr. essentially she's talking about what most people are seeing as the future of farming. Is that the case? Do you think this is where agriculture is going, or is this actually the present?
Actually, what our farmer, and I'm very happy to hear her talk about connecting production for food security and also for income generation. Because every family needs to meet the basic needs in the home. Besides food, we also have to have children go to school, you know, and all other necessities in a home. So if we take agriculture as a livelihood, you know, something that your life depends on, then it means you need to look after it very well. So what she's saying is really the future that we like to see. We need to have a future where we are able to produce enough food in different types of diets, because the diet is very, very critical here. In terms of human health, most of the very preventable diseases are actually caused because of people feeding sometimes largely on one type of food crop or a food group, for example, carbohydrates. But we need carbohydrates, we need vitamins, we need proteins, we need minerals. All these provide balanced diets. And the types of agri-food system that can ensure you have a balanced food diet groups accessible to people, or they're able to produce that, is the future that we like to see. Also, the kind of future where agriculture, in this case, based on agroecological practices, is a business to them. You know, it can generate money. Also, the kind of business that can attract the young people. As you can see, even in this country, lots and lots of young people are coming out of schools, coming out of colleges, coming out of universities. Where do they go? And in this country, almost all the major universities train agriculture-related students. Where do they go? And we feel, looking at agriculture in the manner we are teaching and emphasizing, that let's look at better options, more sustainable solutions, then the youth can become part of the problem to be resolved here. In which case, you can have also job creation opportunities actually being created for the youth to play a role in developing and strengthening our agriculture and food systems.
Okay, I want to stop you right there, because I want us then to sort of get a bit of background around the conversation we're talking about. Because, of course, as indicated earlier, this is around what exactly was the conversation at the Agroecology conference. And we put some of that together for you as a viewer, essentially to give you a bit of background. And that's what we have today in our Farm Guide segment. So take a look.
What is agroecology? Why are we concerned with it? Why do we feel it is one of the most appropriate and urgent ways that we need to see how to transform or change our agriculture and food systems for the better, in a very sustainable way, in a very healthy way, and ensuring that we are doing so in very safe environments?
As governments, we need to put in place enabling frameworks for agroecology. In the case of Uganda, we have an existing policy that the government, with the consultation of the people, was established in the year 2019. And as we talk, we are reviewing that policy. But concurrently, we are in advanced stages of putting in place an agroecology strategy to operationalize the policy.
And therefore, we're looking at it in terms of how is it that we are going to ensure there is food security in this country, sufficient food, nutritious food, and also make sure that production of that food is done sustainably. And therefore, it is because of the food deficiencies that we have had over the period that then we have had to use the conventional fertilizers. So that then we can be able to increase our food production. As we go forward, that still we cannot immediately say we are not going to use inorganic fertilizers, because we have to ensure there is food for this country. But as we see that the use of these organic fertilizers, how well is it keeping our soil health? And we're saying we need to see how we build and enhance our soil health. And therefore, now there is a shift that we are embracing at the county level, that we begin to shift and see use of the organic practices, the use of mulching, the use of crop rotation, the use of, in Makueni, for example, we are adopting the drought-tolerant crops.
We are all aware that climate change is real. Desertification is increasing. The weather variability in terms of prediction has just become unpredictable. And that is what is happening today with the issues of climate change. Unpredictability in terms of our rains, and sometimes when they come, they are too much. So how do we prepare our farm and agriculture systems in a manner that they can support food security? We can produce from our farms. When there are some of these challenges, there is still something on the table for the farmers in terms of food and in terms of selling to have an income. And that is where, when we look at agroecology, we find there are solutions, as someone said earlier, nature-based solutions, working friendly with nature, seeing what nature can offer you and seeing how you can nurture to maximize what nature can actually provide. We are now producing organic fertilizers, and we have some farmers who are doing it.
Let us support our smallholders, the MSMEs, to generate this fertilizer so that when the counties want, when Kitui wants, they will be able to access the organic fertilizer the way they can access the inorganic fertilizer. So that basically this is something that we now becomes a win-win scenario. Let us invest in organic fertilizer. Let us bring in the inorganic fertilizer that must be based on soil tests. Then therein, you'll be able to know the mix, the best mix.
We produce organic biopesticides that are geared towards smallholder farmers in Kenya and that are available through our all the local agrovet network. We have been working in this industry for over 10 years now, and all of our biopesticide products are fully registered and fully certified organic by Kalimo High and by EcoCert for Europe.
I think it's a great opportunity to network about agroecology. We give a lot of room to our farmers and partners, and we also learn a lot what is happening on agroecology here in the region.
We support small-scale farmers to be food secure through agroecological practices which help in production of safe foods.
Agroecology, conservation agriculture, smart farming, all those are just English names just to decorate what we used to have indigenous ways of farming. Farming while making sure that you are not destroying other things. We practice mixed farming, while this other modern commercial farming promote monoculture. If it is maize, it is maize. Nothing else. If it is beans, it is beans.
Every season that comes along, the women have to look for seed. They have to ask for their husbands for seed. But the agroecology practices we are doing, we are reclaiming our indigenous seeds. When we claim and we also have seed banks in our communities. So you're able to keep your seed, your indigenous. There are so many varieties of seed that are lost. The maize seed, the bean seeds that you see, that were regenerated again and again. But because we have to ask our husbands for money to go for synthetic fertilizers, to go for seeds, the hybrid seeds, that are most of the things that bring about the gender-based violences in our homes. And so the women have learned through the capacity building, through the empowerment, they have seen that they can be able to restore, to be able to store their own seed in their individual seed banks or the community seed banks, or also in the gene banks in the fields.
Well, quite an intensive conversation then. Very, very interesting, of course, to think about what the conversation is revolving, essentially talking about the different approaches to really constructive, conservationist and informed agriculture that translates into agroecology. Let's go back to our discussion and our guests. And I want to start off with you, Dr. Mudavi. And essentially the question is, so we've seen the conference, we've seen the conversation.
Sure.
What do you think was the highlight of this event? What is the thing that you would say has stood out for you?
Thank you very much, Peter. Yes, this was a great conference that brought to Nairobi over 850 delegates and from 42 countries.
Wow.
I think it's one of those biggest conferences that we have ever had in this region. But more importantly is what came out of this conference. One key message was business as usual in terms of how we manage our agriculture is not an option. We can't do business just the way we've been doing it. That's not an option. Also, what came out of this were maybe 5 major areas of concern and recommendations for which I would like to share with the viewers.
Yes.
One is in the area of research and innovations. What kind of research and innovations do we need to have so that we can say we are preparing a solid basis, solid framework for ensuring that our agriculture and food systems are sustainable, are productive, and resilient. And the participants came up with very good suggestions based on innovations that were also on display during the exhibitions. Number 2, also very importantly, was programs and policy development.
Yes.
That's what policies do we need to support this? Because we know in any country, you cannot talk of issues of food security without proper guidelines in terms of policy and investments associated with that. So policy development and related programs was very key, and very good recommendations have come up on what kind of policies do we need to have, what types of programs do we need to support research, to support extension, to support businesses, and so on. Then number 3 was on partnerships and capacity building.
Yes.
We cannot work by ourselves. We need our partners. We need the private sector, the public sector, the farmers, researchers, practitioners, development partners, donors, and other key stakeholders. But how to structure our partnerships so that they are resourceful and also build capacities of our various people, including our farmers, it is very, very key. And very good insights came out of that, and we shall be sharing very soon. The third area that was very important is in the area of how to strengthen markets and trade, basing on agroecological farming systems. This was very important. We know we have standards for agriculture, we have standards for organic farming, but now we want more inclusive standards for agroecological products.
Yes.
Products that are produced basing on how to ensure that we are having safe and healthy systems. And the last area that was important was financing mechanism. How do we finance our research, our development activities, farmers' work, credit, making credit available to the farmers? So the question of how we can finance this, leveraging on systems that ensure that the farmer on the ground benefits from possible financing mechanisms. It's very key. Sometimes finances can be available, but you find maybe the well-off farmers are the only ones getting finances. How do we ensure that that farmer on the ground who is struggling can also have access to either a credit facility or a support mechanism of financing that can enable the farmer put into action some of the practices and technologies we are advocating. So those 5 key areas were the major highlights of this conference. on which we have formulated messages that we would like to share. And maybe later in this interview, I'll mention how we want to proceed. But those 5 key areas came out very, very strongly from this conference.
Yes, so I want to bring in Phyllis, but before that, briefly, Dr. Because we know that part of agroecology is the participatory aspect, listening to what the ground is saying, because they're the ones living the experience.
Sure.
So what role did farmers play at this event?
Peter, thank you very much for that question. As you've seen from Phyllis, she was one of those farmers that were exhibiting their products. The farmers were exhibiting some of the products that they had added value to and which had actually lengthened shelf life. Some farmers were actually exhibiting their seeds. And for information, farmer seeds also became an important issue. In fact, in one of the sub-themes that we are looking at, food security, nutrition, and health, farmers' managed seed system became very key. And we were very impressed to see the range and variety of farmers' own seeds on display. And these are the seeds that farmers are saying, look, these are the seeds that are very resilient, they are productive, but of course we know at the moment the markets do not recognize farmer seeds. And this is again one of the things that we have recommended in the policies and programs to recognize farmer seeds, give them support, give them recognition, and we ensure that farmers are able to produce seeds that are distinct, uniform, and of some standard. And they are not just sharing, but they can also sell that seed. And I'm glad to know that in this country, that journey of reviewing the Seed and Varieties Act so that the farmers' seeds can be recognized is key. So that is one of the things that the farmers actually played a role in this. And as a matter of fact, we allowed the farmers to actually talk to all the delegates. We interviewed a few of them, and all the delegates listened to the farmers. What are their messages? What are their needs? And it was really gratifying to see how farmers have been part and parcel of this conference.
Okay, that is really encouraging. Dr. I want to bring Phyllis in now. As a person who participated in this conference, conversations from right around the world, so many delegates, so many different crops, so many insights. What stood out for you as a person?
From the conference, I learned a lot, and I came to understand that this problem is all over, even outside Kenya. And I was able to understand that we have left some of the, like we have left our culture. Our culture is about putting the seeds, also preserving the seeds without using chemicals. Those are the things which became very key, and also preserving food. Because if I look at myself, I was exhibiting mangoes which were dried, which also extended life, shelf life for the mangoes. And as I come from Makueni, we have a lot of mangoes during the season. And some of them are not, they just go on to waste. Just because we don't have that kind of technology of preserving them. So from the conference, I learned a lot. And I think we are going to embrace agroecology farming, and also preserving our crops, preserving our nature, and in terms of environmental conservation. Because if you look at some of the chemicals we spray to our products, they interfere with the bees. And when they interfere with the bees, also production will go low, because pollination will not be enough for them. So from the conference, I learned we have a lot of work to do, both the farmers, the researchers, the governments. And I'm happy I'm from Makueni, and Makueni, my Waziri was there. She's one of those who gave some keynote. And in Makueni, we have the government with the partners have started putting in policy for agroecological policy, which I think as a farmer, I'm going to do a lot. I also lead a cooperative. I'm within the cooperative of farmers, whereby we are training farmers about good agricultural practices. And one of the good agricultural practices is about agroecology. And we are also, I understand we have a lot of untapped resources in our farms and also in our country, whereby we can use them and get money. And also when you get products and the food which is organically fed, I understand the prices are not the same.
Yes.
So even if when you use the agroecology, you use these products like the synthetic, and also I use organic farm prepared manure. I will sell my food. I may just not understand what I'm selling, but if I sell some vegetables which are organically fed, and another person sells vegetables which are inorganic used,
yes,
I'm selling to you a health thing. The one which is very good, looks very beautiful, looks very appealing, might not be healthy for your health.
Yes.
So from that conference, I think we need more conferences like those ones, even going down to the
Yes,
farm,
to the grassroots.
to the grassroots. Yes, so I will urge my farmers to follow some practices, and also I will request the researchers also to continue researching on if we make our own fertilizers, why should we use inorganic? If this one can work, we better use that one which can work, and then we continue building our economy instead of buying these inorganic fertilizers, which sometimes are becoming also not good to our soils. Yeah.
Okay, interesting insight there. And essentially, I was going to follow up with, so what exactly the takeaways for you were, but I can see that you've literally been able to pick specific things. Well, quite a bit of conversation still to go on, but we want to go on a short commercial break. But when we come back on the other side of the break, there are specific things that we think you should know about that, of course, about agroecology, and we'll be pointing those out, plus, of course, getting into the immediate next steps. And now that the conference has concluded, what do we need to put in place in terms of policy and tangible steps to start walking this journey? But that in just a couple of minutes. Stay with us here on Farm Kenya. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
You are watching Farm Kenya, brought to you by Fugo.
Akishiba utashiba.
Well, indeed, thank you for staying with us here on Farm Kenya. My name is Peter Wakaba, and on this second part of the show, of course, as indicated earlier, we'll get right into the conversation around how agroecology can transform food security and, of course, improve farmers' livelihoods and also create food security while driving economic gains, but also environmental conservation, the complete package. Well, before we get into that conversation, we want to start off with a list of the things that we feel are important for you to know about agroecology. What exactly is it? How does it work? Well, on biodiversity, agroecology integrates diverse crops, livestock, and trees and other plants to boost economic health. And this, of course, works out through the ecosystem. Now, on soil health, practices like crop rotation and composting restore soil fertility and prevent erosion. While on fewer chemicals, it emphasizes natural pest control and the various organic methods that are used to reduce synthetic inputs, while also strengthening local food systems with diverse, sustainable farming practices. Well, this also encourages smallholder support, innovation, and shared knowledge to empower small-scale farmers, and also reduces food waste by composting and using all harvest parts. Nothing goes to waste. This essentially means that you will have a circular economy in your farm and that everything that is produced will go back into the soil. Well, let's get into the discussion then, and I want to start off again with Phyllis. And you were talking to us about your experiences at this event. Are there things that you've seen? Are there things that you've experienced? Are there things that you have learned that you feel are a must that you take this away and use on your farm? Learning experiences from other continents, the way other farmers are working. Are there tangible benefits that you think can cascade from the conference to your farming?
Yes, there are some insights I got from the conference, and the practices. I learned some practices because in my area, most of the farmers, if you grow maize, you carry all the stuff. After harvesting, you carry everything you send to your animals. Then you leave the farm, the farm is just bare. So the sun will hit the soil, and the soil will not be productive. So I learned it's about now, agroecology is about to restore the nature. Restoring the nature is through using, after you take what you have planted, you take your products. You can also use the same, if it is maize, all those products which were grown in that, the stuff you leave it in the farm. So that will continue now making your soil fertile. The other thing I learned is about our seeds. I saw that there are some people who have used their seeds, and I could even myself, at my age when I was young, I saw we used to have some seeds like the pigeon peas, which used to do very well, and they were not much attached by pesticides, and the taste of the food was also very good. So just keeping our seeds will help our people also to understand that not everything we used to have is bad, but it's just a practice of changing our practices, our practices to other one. The other one I learned is about there are people who are resistant to agroecological or using the organic, because I do hear people asking me, does it work? Is this fertilizer? Because sometimes we have a shop for the cooperative and we sell organic fertilizers. Does it work?
Yes, the productivity.
Is it working? The productivity, how is the productivity? So people are not sure whether what they have been used to, if they change, and always people resist to change. But those who have been doing it, they can now attest that there is that the productivity will be just the same. Because if you use the composite manure, the fertilizers we are making, and you put them, even they stay longer than the ones, the inorganic. Because if I put that composite manure in my farm, the next season I can plant on it, and then it will continue now serving my products. But the inorganic manure is when you use it, you just use it once. So those are some of the insights I got from there, and I took home that one. And as a farmer, I will be also encouraging other farmers to use it, to use the practices I saw. And that's why I was there, just not for my own benefit, but also for the farmers of my cadre, that is the smallholder farmers. Again, the farmers can also produce more. If they use agroecology practices, they can get more products in a small area, because the farms are not expanding, they are just becoming small and small. Yes.
Okay, interesting outtakes there, Dr. And like you've rightly heard, especially when farmers are able to start looking inwards for their own productivity, for their own seeds, for that sort of thing, it disrupts the globalization of the food systems, because we've seen tend towards monopolization of this, including through the law, where you have monocultures across continents, people being told to plant one variety of cereals and those sorts of things, and essentially turning people's livelihoods into businesses. And then the disruption that this causes when we have natural calamities like COVID or the war in Ukraine and that sort of thing. So when we talk about food security, agroecology does actually put the food security in your own hands, because you're producing locally and being able to multiply locally. Is this something that can actually be mainstream?
Absolutely, Peter. In fact, you've raised a very important point, that some of the challenges that we face in our agriculture and food systems can be of global in nature, sometimes beyond our control. And if not well managed, they can actually collapse our food system completely.
Completely, yes.
Even recently, as farmers were waiting for fertilizers, everyone was under tension. Will they be available or not? But we are very grateful to the government for making the fertilizers available. But what it means is we have to look at the resilience of our agriculture and food systems. How resilient are they? Are they able to resist some of this push and effects that are generated outside? And we want to say that agroecology is actually one of those systems that can enable our countries in this region to have enough stability to withstand some of these global challenges. And that's why we are saying, if you look at some of these organic fertilizers that some of our small and medium enterprises are already producing, they need to be supported. If we can have more support from the government, from the private sector, into our own solutions for getting fertilizers available to the farmers, that is actually, for me, a very big step that I would say, buy Kenya, build Kenya. Support our own local enterprises that can actually go directly into our agriculture. As a matter of fact, agroecology actually helps to ensure that no one gets hungry. If this country is well organized in terms of using all its resources in our agriculture in a very sustainable way, training farmers, supporting them with innovations, making credit facilities available to them, and supporting youth who are coming up with very good innovations in agroecology that are going directly into supporting all the whole value chain. It means you are producing not only food, but also creating opportunities for jobs, creating opportunities for incomes, and then building stable agriculture and food systems. Agroecology can play that role, and this is why it's still an important issue. Peter, as we discuss this issue, this week, the consultative group on international agricultural research is actually having what we call a science week here in UNEP headquarters. And what are they discussing? How do we address the multiple challenges facing our agri-food systems? I wish like just taking our call to action and give the organizers of the conference this week and say, look, this is what the whole world that came to Nairobi 2 weeks ago said about the same issues, and looking at where are the alternatives. So we are saying, let's also invest more in terms of policy support, in terms of programs, and in terms of capacity building opportunities to ensure that all the concerned people, the farmers, the processors, the marketers, and all those that link to trade, they have the necessary competencies, the necessary skills, the necessary knowledge to be able to do their work efficiently. And if we do that, we'll see how much agroecology can actually offer to us. Secondly, we'll also ensure that we are able to make some of our unproductive lands today in this country become more productive. What we would call greening the brown land, we can achieve that. Regenerating the very unproductive areas, we can do that. I'm very happy with the Phyllis case in Makueni. I have been into Kitui, where we have some of our programs. In some areas where the farmers were not getting anything, we have trained them on how they can make those areas become productive again, bringing the lands that were considered as waste to become more productive. This is through agroecological practices. And therefore, it means that if we let agroecology, in terms of research, in terms of innovations, in terms of programs, and in terms of financing, work very closely within the broader agricultural sector, we can achieve a lot. I am sure even in this country, if we do that, our government will be very happy to see that its people are food secure, its people are having incomes, its people are going around their businesses without feeling too much pressure that we are lacking this. So we feel, given a chance, with a bit of more investment in agroecological research, in innovations. Innovations are those new ideas that have shown the potential to show proof that, one, you can either increase production, or you can cut costs, or you can add value. So if such innovations are supported to be put into programs around either women groups or youth groups and other affiliations of people, there is so much that actually agroecology can deliver in terms of food security, the nutrition part, as we've just heard today. And on that part, I want to say again, some of the previously called orphaned crops, These are the most important crops nutritionally and also in terms of security.
Yes.
The cassavas, the sweet potatoes, those local varieties, which the farmers have the seed, the germplasm for them. Agroecology says, can we harness this, bring together?
Yes.
And we can actually achieve a lot in terms of improving our food security, improving our nutrition, and improving our local economies.
Yes, I want to cut you off right there because I want us to look at a slightly different aspect, because there are those who then contend that we can drive our productivity using chemicals, and thus drive the debate about are chemicals harmful? Should we be using this? Is misuse the issue or not? I want us to listen to a soundbite from Dr. Christopher Wanga. He's the Director of Livestock Policy and Research, who says that this debate needs clarity, and this is his take on our segment that we call Sauti ya Mkulima. Take a listen.
The difference between Europe and us is our indiscipline. You are told withdrawal period 30 days. You have spread it today, tomorrow you are harvesting. Who do you blame? So let us not mix issues. Pest control products used as per the specifications, very safe. Withdrawal periods, then you test, how do you dispose? Not that you finish with a chemical and you throw it. You know, that way you don't help yourself. So it is important that since the media is here, the Kenyan public get the issues right. The pest control products must be bought from registrable sources. The product must be registered. And with it, you'll know what to do, what not to do. An innocent product, an antibiotic, for example, did you know that if your animal has been treated with an antibiotic, you are not supposed to drink that milk for some between 4 to 7 days? But because the milk quantity is high and we are not very good people, we are indisciplined, you release the milk. So do you blame the source of the medicine, or do you blame your discipline?
So coming back to our discussion, and I want to go to Phyllis first. Do we as Kenyans, do we as farmers, do we as investors in the agriculture space have the discipline then to practice agroecology? Even having heard from the expert, if we are not able to pay the price that's required for the modern, for the monocropping, for the intense farming, he talked about the period that you have to wait before you harvest or consume product. Do people really want to be patient for agroecology to pay?
Yes, Peter, I can also say that people are not disciplined.
Yes.
And just because of maybe poverty, and the other one is ignorance. Because our people also, if you go to the farm and ask that farmer, what product did you spray to your they don't even know. They just go to the shop, they say, I want this, my product has this kind of signs. Sometimes they carry even if it is a leaf which is affected.
Yes.
So they are given some product to go and spray. Also, those who employ those who are selling to the farmers, they don't have knowledge about what they are selling. So there is a lot of confusion within the farmers. So the discipline is not there. I can say that they can even sell after just spraying, especially now the tomato farmers.
Yes.
You just find somebody spraying, and then when they see people coming to buy, they just put the pumps aside, and then they start now picking and selling. So the discipline is not there. Yes. It is just because people are ignorant, others are poverty, and the others even don't understand. So I am in that sense. If we can have alternatives, why should we go to those ones which are harmful? The alternatives are the ones we are talking about, the agroecology. If I've sprayed we have some herbs from our trees in the village, which used to be used by our forefathers. If we can spray that one and then it work, it's okay. But I think even before we get such a products, we need a lot of sensitization, a lot of education, a lot of information to know. If I take this just immediately, what are the causes? What are the repercussions about what is coming?
Yes.
So I am very sure we are not stable enough. Even to buy these chemicals are also very expensive. So if we have alternative, why can't we use the alternative?
Yes.
And what I'm also looking at, as Dr. Daktari said about the financing, the farmers are also suffering because if you look at the farming today, labor is very expensive, things are very expensive, and the farmers are lacking credit facilities which are friendly to the farmers.
Yes. I want to cut you off because I want to come to Daktari. We have just about 5 minutes to go, and I want to get in a bit of a comment. Now, when you look at the conversation we've had, including what she's just said, what then is the place for organizing farmers in collectives that then drive this knowledge, that drive the marketing, that drive the consumer awareness, that will then drive the market systems? Because we are seeing that with all these demands on resources and time and that sort of thing, then maybe things like cooperatives or farmers groups might be the way to go forward. Was that one of the things discussed at the conference?
Very good. Thank you, Peter. That's a very important question, and it actually came up very strongly under markets and trade. And I want to say that for soil health in this country, even the whole of this continent, if the soil health is not looked at very seriously, it doesn't matter how many tons of fertilizers we import. And that is why I'm very happy that this country also hosted an African Fertilizer and Soil Health Summit last year. And the question was, it is time to stop cheating ourselves that we can only rely on chemical-based fertilizers. And a high recognition that it's important to look at the organic fertilizers as well. Organic fertilizers are very important in restoring the health of soils. When you restore your health of soils, you actually improve the efficiency of the nutrient use by crops when you even now apply your chemical-based fertilizers. So we are saying the two, for now, need to be considered. And I'm very happy that discussion is moving on. Now, how do we ensure that farmers, and particularly our smallholder farmers, can be better organized to tap into the potential of agroecology and other innovations that are coming up? For sure, the issue of having strong farm organizations organized on specific value chains. But we also know value chains need to be diverse, and that is the beauty about agroecology. We don't depend on one crop commodity. I'm glad you have here quite a range of crops, different varieties. That's what agroecology is about. On a farmer's farm, you should have a few different types of enterprises in terms of crops, in terms of livestock, even livestock. You should have some cows, have some goats if possible, poultry, and even rabbits. All these have different types of manures that are very important for improving soil health. So when you organize farmers, therefore coming back to your question, farmers can actually be important economic entities. They can be able to put together what they're producing on small scale in terms of aggregating to be big enough to go to markets. And that means actually by so doing, you are enabling the farmers to benefit from markets collectively more than they would have actually done that individually. So organizing farmers in strong entities, be they cooperatives, be they credit loans and saving schemes, all those will actually help the farmers benefit more from markets, benefit more from research, because they can also push the agenda that this is where I would like to see more work done in terms of research. It can also help them to push more for policy attention. We want our seeds to be recognized because we feel our markets need these kinds of crops. And that way the farmers will be listened to. So the farmer's voice can really be enhanced if they are better organized, supported and integrated into our overall agriculture and food systems. They are important players and we need to listen to them, and not only listening to them but proactively support the farmers.
I want to give both of you 30 seconds to close, and I want to start off with Daisy. What would be your clarion call to other farmers out there, people like you, people who are looking at what we are talking about and seeing that this might be something that can work for me? In 30 seconds, what can you say to them?
I can say to the farmers, my fellow farmers, that let's go back and look at our farms. Let's go back and look at the good practices we can do ourselves. And then we can also get knowledge from our parents who are now alive and they know how they used to do, so that they can now teach us how to improve and what they used to do. And then we have some few demos. We have a synthetic, a small demo for this and a small demo for the our manure, and then we see which works better.
So going back to our roots.
Yeah.
And Dr. For you, 30 seconds, if there's one thing that you feel
Thank
is
you,
important.
Peter. One thing that I feel is important is we have to integrate agroecology into our agriculture, into our extension, into our research, into our education institutions, and that means curriculum. People need to understand our lives depend on this. And I think if we do that, we'll go very far. And finally, the National Agroecology Strategy that was launched recently this year by the Minister for Agriculture and Livestock Development. Let's implement it. And we have actually very important insights from the conference that I will share with my team. We prepare and share with the Minister for Agriculture. And we say, look, this is what came out from the many people that came to Nairobi, over 850. And I think we can borrow lots of insights from there, lessons learned, innovations that were demonstrated to see how do we incorporate this into the implementation of our National Agroecology Strategy. Kenya will be very food secure, will be an important economic player in this region, and will keep our environment safe for the future.
Okay, thank you very much both for your time. Quite an interesting conversation and something quite different from what usually the conversation has been, and good to see that there is actually an alternative out there that people who are looking for productivity can venture into. And that's where we bring the conversation to a close here today. Of course, Dr. Amudavi, being an expert in his space and being executive director at BioVision Africa Trust, and Daisy Nduva, she is a dedicated agroecology farmer. But for us, that is it for today. We, of course, will be here again tomorrow at the same time for more on Farm Kenya. But for now, it is do continue to enjoy the rest of your viewing. My name is Peter Wakaba. Kwaheri ya kuonana.
Kuwa na uhakika sasa, kukulea stakabadhi.